We're just checking some logistics. Nice. Alright, well, we're gonna get started. You sound really awesome on this. I'm Jason Horton. I'll be moderating this panel on revenue streams, how to make big-time money, big-time Hollywood money. I don't know, I'm just paraphrasing.
That's accurate.
I'm going to have everyone go down and introduce themselves, a little bit about themselves and what they do, even though you probably know what they do. We went from left to right? Yeah, let's go from my right, all the way down.
I'm Swoozie. I do videos about my life. I talk about really personal stuff, animate stories about my life, and I also vlog about relationship drama.
We don't have any of that, right, babe? No relationship drama. Hi, I'm shaycarl. I am a daily YouTube video vlogger. Been making a video every day for my entire life. My kid's entire life. Rock-Tard is the real-life Truman baby, I like to say sometimes. But I do a lot of different stuff. I have at least 6 YouTube channels that I know of. We do a podcast bi-weekly. Check it out when the kids go to sleep, links below. And a lot of different stuff. Been on YouTube for about 5 years now.
Cool. My name is Bienstock. I founded a company called Semaphore, and we basically work with tubers, helping them develop their business and work their brands and help with monetization options as well.
And we love money, don't we, people? We love money. Yeah, I think a popular question, I mean, I get it a lot, so I imagine you guys get it even more. Everyone's kind of like, how do you make your money? Like, how much money do you make per views per video, and stuff like that? And, you know, I don't know what that answer is, but I guess talk a little bit about, you know, about making money on YouTube and kind of put that in perspective. Is it just making money off your views, or are you kind of finding creative ways to use your talent, your YouTube presence to make money and make a living and you know, support what you do and pay the rent and still be creative?
Well, I didn't start taking YouTube seriously until 2010. I didn't become partnered until late 2008. And I couldn't quit my day job until about a year after taking it seriously. I mean, I was living off of $600 a month. That's all I needed, about bills for phone and rent and all that fun stuff.
What were you doing for a living?
I was a lifeguard at Hard Rock Hotel, right down the street, and then I was part-time doing professional gaming. So I would travel and compete and play games and, you know, make a few $1,000s here and there. But the YouTube money, when they first called me and told me, hey, we'll pay you, like, I think I was the 4th or 5th person to get a call right after Smosh, and I turned them down because they couldn't tell me how much they were going to pay me. So it wasn't until I got in cahoots with Michelle Phan. I don't know if any of you guys know about her.
Woo!
Yeah, okay. She does makeup for any of you guys that don't know. And she flew me out to New York one day, and I felt like Usher. I was just saying this in an interview. I mean,
It's Usher.
It's Usher. I'm sorry, my bad. But yeah, I mean, this girl was showing me how she lives life, and it was just, we didn't hail any cabs. We had our own personal driver. I raided the fridge every day. I ordered $30 hamburgers from the iPod, like on the menu, and it was like, this is all YouTube. And the hotel we were staying at, a 5-star hotel, and it was just amazing. Like, waiters waiting on you, like right next to the table.
Oh, I know how that is. No, you don't have to ask me. I live
What hotel are you going to?
This is in like downtown New York. It was amazing.
Is this in your mind, or is it
Once I saw the potential for YouTube, I got back home and I started taking this thing very seriously, because when I realized, like, I could wake up and every day is Saturday, I don't have a boss telling me to clean tables or to do this or do that. Like, YouTube became like the best job ever, and I'm making more money than both my parents combined right now. Don't tell them.
What's your story, Shay?
Well, I was eating cheeseburgers while people were massaging my feet, so it's probably like a little bit better hotel than you were at. I mean, sometimes I like get a little concerned that you know people come to Playlist Live and VidCon, and it's like you hear these YouTubers like, yeah, I just made videos and I started being rich and famous. And it's like, it's not as simple as that. You know, it's tough. You know, a lot of these YouTubers, what they don't tell you is they work, 12 to 15 hours a day. And it's a different kind of work, like commenting on, your videos and replying to tweets at 2 in the morning is kind of like our work. But it's like, you're never off the clock in a sense, like when you have a regular job, you clock out at 5 and you're like, I'm not going to think about that place again until Monday morning when I have to go back and clock in. This job, it's like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're like, you're on the job, whether it's responding to, followers or whatever. For me, I had a granite countertop business when I first started the YouTube thing, and I had a similar experience. I went out to this Next Lab. HBO was doing this Next Up Lab. This was like 4 years ago, and Philip DeFranco was casting this, and he invited me to come out. And he was staying at the W Hotel in Hollywood, and I was like, whoa! And he had the penthouse, because HBO was rolling it out to give them all these perks. And when I first saw wow, you can actually make money doing this. I was a husband with 2 kids. I had to pay the bills. Daddy had to bring home the bacon, and so I had bills and I had a mortgage. We just bought a house, and I remember our very first check, because that first check came in. It was like $326, and I remember telling Colette, I was like, "Come check this out, $326. That would be our utilities for this month." And I didn't believe it. I went down to my bank. I was at Wells Fargo. I'd like to withdraw the $326, and they gave me cash. And I went and spent it really quick. Still, I was like, "We're gonna take this back. There's no way that I'm gonna actually get money from being just me on YouTube." And so once I realized that, it was in my mind, it was more videos means more money. I know, I'll make a video every day. And so I told this story a little bit earlier, but the paycheck after our first month of daily vlogs, I remember yelling at my wife and saying, "Come in here," because the AdSense, you could track it, and looking at the amount, it's that was more than I was making at my full-time granite job. And it wasn't a ridiculous amount of money. Can I say that? I always hate you can't say, "You guys want to know, don't you?"
Are we allowed to say it?
I don't think so. I feel like there's some Google sniper up in the balcony. Like a dart in my neck in a second. But it was an equivalent to a full-time job that you would get after getting a bachelor's degree. It wasn't $100,000 a year, and it was more than $30,000 a year. Annual income. That would kind of give you an idea. But at that point, it was I was making probably $30,000 to $40,000 a year, working 12 hours a day doing granite countertops, and we got that first check after our 30 days of those monthly videos, and I was like, "Honey, we could pay our mortgage. This could be our full-time job." And it was still too good to be true. Even today, this is 5 years later, it's still I pinch myself when it's this is amazing. But this panel, I think specifically, is not just AdSense. We've taken advantage of other streams of revenue like merchandise. We sell calendars. Check it out, rodeoarcade.com, and shirts and hats. iTunes. Yeah, a lot of YouTube artists. Dave Days makes a killing on iTunes. He doesn't make as much money on his AdSense but selling music on YouTube is huge, and it's a big reason that the music industry is changing, because these artists can just do whatever they want. They don't have to go through a record label. And then there's brand deals. YouTubers are like big billboards. Brands pay to get their product in front of a lot of eyeballs. And that's what YouTubers are, is they can, a lot of, if you have a good friend that says, "You've got to check out this movie, it's so good," you're probably going to go see that movie. That's what YouTubers are, but their friends are they have 100,000 or 200,000 or 1 million
or less, sometimes less.
Yeah, if you're not as popular, Jason Horton. But yeah, and it's been, it's been a grind. It's been a lot of work, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
I just want to backtrack for a second, just because I want people to leave with some kind of thing they can take away. You made a video every single day and send more videos. But if you had to give advice, everyone here, is necessarily, I'm just getting started, more is better, or, would you agree that kind of start with one solid video and then, create a demand and then increase that?
Yeah, what we do is weird, and I wouldn't recommend our format to everybody, because, I have 4 adorable children and a way hotter wife than average. I really lucked out in that aspect. So it's quality over quantity a lot of times, and especially nowadays. Back when I started, I was ahead of the curve. I just lucked out because I was on YouTube 5 years early. It wasn't like I did anything special. I got lucky and had Sexy Phil give me a shout out in 2007, and at that time, every YouTuber knew every other YouTuber. So gatherings like these were there were no fans. It was just all the YouTubers would show up, and we would just hang out and make videos together. It was just a bunch of friends making YouTube videos. So it was we were a little lucky in that aspect, but now businesses and Hollywood are all getting into the game. So if you're creating content, it has to be good, because there's, the supply and demand is totally changed. So you have to create something unique, and it's hard because everybody, is doing different things, but there's something that you can find, you know, I don't want to be discouraging, but it's a lot harder now. It's a lot harder to get in and, you know, to make money. But you can work. Everybody knows I'm part of Maker Studios. Maker Studios employs 350 people. Those are 350 jobs that did not exist 3 years ago, you know. So this industry, whether you work at Maker Studios or anywhere, there's a lot of networks and, you know, places like HeatWorks that you can get into this industry. So if it's something you love, there's a lot of opportunities, not necessarily as just being a YouTuber.
The audience is an important thing in terms of the branding, because it all ties to your audience and your ability to, you know, shout out to friends or steer traffic, as you call it. If you don't have an engaged audience, you're not going to get the brand deals. You're not going to, even if you get merch and set up a merch shop, nobody's going to come buy it. So at the end of the day, it all does circle back to being a content creator and really engaging your audience.
I mean, you've worked with a bunch of YouTubers on the, you know, on the financial side. I mean, is there any kind of general things that you've seen that you can kind of share here? I guess that would be like, oh, this would be a step in the right direction for a YouTuber as far as like making a living, however long that takes.
It's actually an interesting thing about that. Everybody, the common thread is they do something that they're passionate about, because, like he was just explaining, it's not easy money. I mean, the honest truth is there is a lot of money in the business now, and it's funny that we're on this panel because I remember 3 or 4 years ago, or pre-maker as I like to call it, I was working with talent back then, and it was a big secret. Nobody told anybody they were making any money. And it felt like it was this like inner circle club of like, hey, these guys are making 6 figures, but shh, don't tell anybody, you can't let anybody know. And here, like, you know, this panel about the monetization and the money, because the game's changed. I mean, people, it's been on the cover of Business Week, it's been in Forbes, there's big money coming into this space, and it's just going to keep getting bigger. But you need to be passionate about what you do to build the audience. And one thing that I could say from an encouragement standpoint, there is definitely an acceleration curve, and we see with all the talent we work with, to get that first check of $300 and then to break that $1,000 a month barrier is a ton of work and takes a long time. But the positive spin to the story is it's like a snowball. And I kind of give an analogy. You work really hard to push the snowball up this giant hill. And it could take you 2 or 3 years to get it to the top. But once you crest that hill and you start coming down, the money just ramps up pretty dramatically. And once you could push to like $4,000 to $5,000 a month in monetization, you're on your way to making very big money, because it doesn't go 4,000, 4,100, 4,002 like
exponential, yeah.
Yeah, it just launches.
We were talking to a guy just right before the panel started. I don't know if he's still here, but he said he's been watching our videos for 5 years, and he's been making videos, and he finally had a video go viral, and he's gotten 80,000 subscribers in the last 3 days. Wow. So it's like, you know, you work your butt off for 15 years, and then you're an overnight success. Like, you know, you'll have something that will just snap, that will like push you over the edge, and you know, you made it. I told him, I said, welcome to the party, man.
Can I come to the party?
No, Jason. You didn't RSVP.
So I guess if you had to go back in time and you had to tell yourselves like tips and stuff like that, or things that you know now that you wish you knew then that you can share with the, you know, the video creators out here, what would those things be? Like if there's anything you could think of.
My friend Paige, she interviewed me earlier, and I was telling her the same thing. The best advice that I would give myself is to create the kind of videos that you would share if you had nothing to do with it. Because when we first start out, it's just like, oh my god, I made this. This is amazing. Facebook share, Twitter share. We share it over everything because our face is plastered all over it. We worked so hard, all these hours editing. But that doesn't necessarily make it a good video. So when you start to think like, okay, would I share this if I had nothing to do with it? A lot of times for me, the answer was like, no, when I look back. So then when I actually started to create content, that was like, you know what? I would share. You know, people don't text me back. So I want people to know, like, listen, when I text you, text me back. That's a video that needs to be sent out. So I mean, I made those kind of videos, and things changed like crazy overnight because of just, I started looking at the way I was approaching the content that I was creating much differently. So that's the one thing I would share with myself. Otherwise, I want to go through all the sweat and all the long hours of figuring this stuff out, because having somebody tell you something is much different than actually going through it by yourself. So make content that you would share if you had zero help in it.
I always say that, naming the Shaytards was probably not my best marketing decision. Because I feel like there's a lot of brands that are like, we don't want to work with the Shaytards. Like, what's up with that? But sometimes I think maybe it's like that, people like, what's with this Shaytards thing? And now to me, like, that word is like a term of endearment now. Like, people say like, oh, phone tard, or here's my dog tard, or I'm Sarah tard, or whatever. It's become like a term of endearment. At first it was just like, this is 4 years ago, I wasn't thinking. I was like, yeah, I don't know, where do you tard, Shaytards? People like, he hates mentally handicapped people. That's not true. So maybe I would have renamed the Shaytards to something else. But it seems hard now because of so much history has passed.
So be careful of maybe your brand name.
Right,
like, think about it like before you start. Like if you're gonna have a long journey, don't just be like, oh man, crazy poopy dude. Like that sounds funny today, but like in a year,
I subscribe to crazy poopy dude.
So would I.
Don't put a bunch of, that's one thing I say, it's like, don't put a bunch of numbers, like, don't be, 0x911 Halo Man 3, it's like, what? What's your username? Like, make it something that's memorable, that's easy, easy to remember. Like, you gotta think of those marketing things, because, a lot of YouTubers that started back when I started now you start a YouTube channel because people are like, I want to make money, so I'm going to start this thing. The reason I named my first channel shaycarl is because that was my name. My name is Shaycarl Butler, and that was the email I had at the time, was shaycarl@hotmail. And so I thought, well, that's what, I guess my YouTube username has to be the same thing. And so that's just what it was. But yeah, you gotta, put first things first and think about your name or something.
And branding does matter significantly because the advertisers are a big revenue stream, and the monetization and the integration, they're giving all these new names for what's really product placement at the end of the day. But different brands will be hesitant, and so that story is really a big deal because you've reached such a critical mass. For you, it doesn't matter because people want to work with you anyway. But for somebody just starting out, if that's the difference between you trying to make it for another 3 months to let things kick in for you, that could literally be the difference between you guys kind of making it or not. So you can't be a slave to brands, and you can't like obsess and worry about it, but if every word out of your mouth is F this, F that, understand that brands are going to stay away from you, and it's going to impact things.
I want to take some questions because people can come up and ask you questions because you're approachable people. But I think if you ask a question, maybe other people can benefit from it in this room. Does anyone have any questions? Right in the front.
So I think a lot of people hear the success stories of kids, especially, and say, that's what I want to do, that's what I want to make my career. Do you guys feel like you have a responsibility to tell kids, like, hey, we worked really hard, got a lot of great, but this isn't really a career option for a lot of people?
Yeah, I do have that concern because
it's about I'm just going to repeat this. A lot of young kids are ambitious and creative, and they hear these stories and might be like, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire overnight like shaycarl. Paraphrasing. But do they feel a responsibility to kind of like be more informative too?
Well, just funny thing. On the way here, I drove over with my dad. He's like, "So what's this panel thing?" And I said, "Oh, we're going to talk about tips and tricks and best practices." He's like, "Well, you're not going to tell them, are you? That's like your competition." And in a sense, it kind of is. And YouTube has never been like that. Like all the YouTubers have always like worked together and encouraged each other. But it's almost like there's only a certain amount of time in the day. So if you watch my family for 30 minutes, you can only watch so many Charles Trippy videos, and it really is kind of competition. So it's hard now because, like I said, like the ocean is getting bigger, and young kids like, I want to grow up and be a YouTuber. It's not as easy. Like I always want to like on these panels. Like lately, I want to make that known that like this takes a lot of time and hard work. Like if you want to do it, like I'm not somebody that wants to smash a dream because you guys know me. I'm like, you can do it if you believe, But you got to know that it might take you 5 years, 10 years of working 12 hours a day, and if you don't and not willing to put in that time and effort, then you're going to be disappointed at the end of the day when you're like, I only have 236 subscribers, and you've been working. So I don't want to say like you can't do it because you can, but it's a lot harder. That should be known. Like it's not easy.
You have to be realistic about it too, because when I told my parents I wanted to do pro gaming and I'm going to quit my 9 to 5, like I'm sure you guys can imagine the reaction that I was getting from that. And even when I decided to go full-time YouTube, they hated that idea because they can't get it through their head. Like even sometimes I have a hard time getting it through my head. Like I'm going to upload a video from my bedroom. money is going to appear in my bank account, and it's almost like playing The Sims. Like the simoleon money just pop up at the top of the screen. There's a lot of times I don't even see the money because I shop online, so I don't physically see George Washington.
Just numbers crossing in the airways.
So I mean, my parents were very, I don't know, they loved telling me how I couldn't do things. So they would put all their limitations on me. And for a good week or two, I was just like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I can't write, I can't shoot, I can't do anything. I can't read. Yeah, I can't do anything. So they would constantly, so what do you want to do? Well, you want to do that? You can't do that. You have to go to school for 8 years to do that. And then I told myself, you know what? I'm going to only let myself put limitations on myself. If anybody's going to tell me I can't do anything, it's going to be me. So yes, there is that reality that you could sit up here in YouTube for 5 years and not make it big. But at the same time, too, I mean, you really good video apart from a bad video. You have to be able to pick yourself apart and be like, you know what I'm doing right now kind of sucks. It's not working. Let me switch it up. So I mean, I think that's one of the things that really helped me is one, I came in with a strategy at a certain point, like, okay, I'm doing this, it's not working, I need to know when to change it up. But I would say, I mean, yes, it is kind of our responsibility to...
It gets better. The apple pie's done.
It is our responsibility to make
Let's
the
take one
realistic.
more question.